Hey guys, this is Sarbjeet. This is my third weekly vlog of 2022. I mainly focus on tech news and sometimes touch the economic news which pertain to technology in general. With that short intro, let's get started. First of all, it was a short week. Monday was MLK Day, so U.S. markets were closed and most of the U.S. offices were closed as well. So was the tech media kind of keeping mum, not talking much. But the one big news coming out of China was, economic news from China was that they are cutting the interest rates. And as we all know, in U.S., we are raising the interest rates. In the meantime, we're talking about raising the interest rates in 2022. And I think from that front, to China, I say, well played, China. They will attract some economic activity there. So well played by China. On Tuesday, the big tech news was that Microsoft is acquiring Activision for $68 point some billion, almost $69 billion. That was a big news. I think Microsoft actually wants to play into the metaverse sort of world. By acquiring Activision, they get the scale into the gaming that they can apply some of that into their metaverse sort of goals, and some of that will go into their other part of the metaverse goal, which is the Microsoft Office, the actual sort of commercial use of metaverse, if you will. Only time will tell how that plays out. Hopefully, the regulators will approve this deal. As we know, regulators are tightening things up. Another news hitting the wire was that the startups raked in $621 billion in 2021, but women just got $28 billion of that. So there's a lot of gap we need to fill for women founders, women-only founders. If there was a woman founder with a man co-founding a company, then the percentage was higher, as you can see on the screen. So that was Tuesday. On Wednesday, I heard an interesting comment from one of the guests on CNBC that half of the Microsoft's metaverse sort of strategy hangs in the gaming and the other half hangs in the Microsoft Office side of things, which is the commercial use of metaverse technology stacks. I thought that was an interesting comment. I also actually attended a talk by Kara Swisher and Casey Newton. They were talking about this deal and other deals, other gaming company deals, which has happened in the recent past. So I asked that question during that Spaces talk. But Kara didn't agree with the comment from the CNBC guest. Kara thinks that it is not metaverse related, it is just gaming related, which I kind of tend to disagree to a certain extent. I think some part of that deal has to do something with something sort of more than just gaming. Another news on the crypto side on Wednesday was Crypto.com got hacked. 400 customers were impacted. Millions of dollars were stolen. CEO went on the media and said, we will reimburse the people who have lost their money on Crypto.com. Crypto.com is based in Singapore. So Emily Chang actually asked a tough question to the CEO that, hey, did anybody from Singapore regulators reach out to you to see what happened? And the answer was no. And that actually was an interesting question, I thought. It's interesting that the companies sitting in these smaller countries or safe havens, sometimes like we call it from tax purposes and or other regulatory purposes, sometimes it's not very good for consumers of these companies because there's less protection and the regulators and the lawmakers are not sort of up to par. They can't keep up with these companies. Interesting observation, I guess. Intel is urging the Congress and the senators to pass the CHIPS Act. And the CHIPS Act is looking for money, and that money will go into the chips companies. And of course, Intel will want that to be passed so they can get their fair share. Another interesting startup news I heard was a company lets parents give some crypto to their kids. Not only parents, any loved ones can donate the kids cryptocurrencies or crypto tokens, if you will, and they can pay with that as their college fee. Interesting business model. And again, there's a lot going on in the crypto space. There are a lot of good ideas, and there are a lot of not so good ideas happening in that space as well. So that was Wednesday. Thursday was a busy day. Tech started positive, but then by the end, it was down by 200 points. Nasdaq was down by 200 points. Bitcoin was falling. Netflix was down by more than 20% after a big warning of the future subscription numbers. By the way, Netflix is trying to get into the gaming, but the progress there is slow. Peloton was another stock which was being hit badly, down by more than 20%, as they said that they will halt the manufacturing of their bike and their treadmill and few other things they make based upon the demand projections. Robinhood launched a shareholder Q&A feature in their Robinhood app, mobile app, and their CEO was on Bloomberg. She said that retail investors don't have access to the professional investors have from the CEOs and CXOs of the companies, and this will enable that. Tesla is one of the companies which is going to participate in this program, so regular investors can ask questions from Musk, I guess. Oh wait, they can also ask the question through Twitter from him. So this might turn out to be just a gimmick thing. We'll see. Antitrust Bill is being discussed. So Antitrust Bill was getting discussed on Senate floor. A bunch of Republican senators are against it. I mean, obviously. But few of the Democrat senators are against it as well. For example, California Senator Feinstein was against it. She said, any law we make should treat every company fairly and equally fairly, if you will. This law, she said, is trying to target few companies which are named, and they are in her state, which is California, and my state as well. So she was pretty straightforward there. There are a lot of points being raised against this bill. One was that it will turn out to be bad for consumers because as we break up the companies, things will become more expensive, and that will hamper fighting the inflation, number one. Number two, it will rise the prices for the consumers. Not good. So second point was that it will decrease the competitiveness of US companies against Chinese companies mainly, and or other nations as well. The third point was being raised against this bill was that it will reduce the privacy and security of data for many of the users of these companies. When we split these companies into smaller companies, all these user bases will be split, and it increases the sort of what I usually call attack surface for privacy and for security as well. And there was House hearing on the power use of crypto mining as well. So the House was busy on the crypto side, and the Senate was busy on the antitrust bill. Interesting. On Thursday, another interesting news on the crypto side. Federal Reserve, U.S. Federal Reserve, I will say, released a 40-page document on digitization of dollar, if you will. And a lot of I need to read the whole thing, but I glanced through it. There's a lot of talk about how it can be done and what are the pros and cons. They're asking public to give their opinions on this paper, which is an interesting development. I think it's a tiny step forward in turning US dollar into a digital dollar, if you will. Digital US dollar, not any dollar. Neurolink has hired a clinical director, so they want to start doing the trials of inserting the chips into human brains. And I was actually surprised to hear during that sort of news segment that there are hundreds of thousands of people who have the chips already inserted in their brains, and that is as a remedy for diseases like Parkinson and epilepsy. So I was surprised, actually. On Friday by 2 p.m., we realized that it was the worst week for tech stocks since March 2020, when the whole pandemic hit and the US was shut down within a month or so. So it was a pretty bad week for tech. And NASDAQ 100 got into the correction territory. By the way, on that note, what is a correction actually? How do you define it? I was I got educated on this a little bit from a guest on a talk show that correction actually is a relative term. We tend to take the 10% as a correction number. If segment of the market goes 10% down, we say that's in correction territory. And the expert was saying that correction can be on the plus side or the negative side. If we have been way down, more down than we need it to be, the correction can be on the positive side as well. So the true meaning of correction is that we were on the wrong path, we're correcting it. And he also said that the correction is a relative number. It should be a relative number. There shouldn't be a 10% benchmark or a 10% mark there. For example, if we are up by 80% in last year and a half, then going 10% down is not really a correction. Going maybe 20% down is a correction. So interesting comments from him. Good points from him. On Friday, another news hitting the wire was that Intel is investing $20 billion into a chip manufacturing plant in Ohio. Chips are in news all the time. We are still fighting the chip shortage in the auto, in computers, in servers, all kind of industries. We are fighting that. So that was the week, day by day. Overall, the whole week was bad for tech. A lot of bloodshed, if you will, red every day almost. Semiconductor manufacturers are under huge pressure to produce the chips, and they are interdependent on each other. The TV industry cannot produce enough TVs, and auto industry is suffering, and there's hardly anything we are building these days which doesn't have chips in it. Trucks, cars, airplanes, and my camera, my computers, and the lights which are all connected, and fridges and door locks and whatnot. Also this week, Lena Khan was interviewed by Kara Swisher and Andrew Sorkin of CNBC. I thought that interview was amazing. They asked some very deep questions and very vague questions at times to sort of get into her mind, how she thinks about all these things. I think the answers were awesome as well. And Lena said at times that the best way to interject for regulators or be more vigilant is when there are transition times in tech. Because she said when there's a transitional time in tech, the incumbents are more desperate to stay relevant, and they take some wrong steps during those times. So I thought that was an interesting comment. Please take a look at that interview. It's a must-watch for anybody who wants to know where the U.S. tech is headed, especially for people like Bill Mew. Actually, Bill Mew is always interested in U.S. tech and how regulators are handling U.S. tech versus European regulators and Chinese regulators and so forth. So, yep, take a look at that. The link is down below in the description. So next week is going to be an interesting week. Microsoft, Tesla, Apple, Texas Instrument, IBM, Amex, Boeing. Those are the main tech companies reporting, and there are others like Amex and 3M as well, and hundreds of others. We'll see how that week goes, and earnings will be in more sort of limelight, because the market is kind of down for a week or so. A big idea this week is that the Web3, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, there's a lot of craze around it, and there's all these things are correlated. And the biggest umbrella term for that we are using today, these days, is Web3. So all these other things like crypto, DeFi, NFT falls under that. And we're going to have a Spaces talk on January 27th at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please join us if you can. It would be an interesting talk to talk about all these things. I'll have some interesting guests who I think are well versed in this topic. As you know, I'm skeptical about cryptocurrencies. I'm very bullish on the crypto as technology. And it's going to be an interesting discussion because some of those guests will be very Bitcoin-ish, Bitcoin friendly, if you will. unlike me. So that's the big idea thing. And the feedback from last week, the feedback is not there because I did not post my weekly vlog on YouTube, and there's no feedback. These things actually take a lot of time, hours and hours to prepare, and then to record, and then to add it. And the hard part is that I have to pick the news, which news is more relevant, and is it tech news, is it economic news, and yeah, it's not that trivial, I guess. That's why not many people are doing it. Yeah, some people just do the news about, for example, gaming industry, or some people just do the news around one little segment of the tech, but covering the whole tech is a lot of work. Actually, on that note, I think I should do a weekly talk on the cloud alone. That will be a little more contained sort of problem to solve as compared to the whole tech. Give me some feedback, please. Just DM me on Twitter, or put your notes here in the video comments, like what you think is the right way to do it. Like, what do you want to hear from me? And that does it for this week. Thanks for watching, and please give me your comments, and please share this with your friends or other people you think can benefit from this. And feel free to take any snippets of it or parts of it and tweet it, whatever you want to do with it. There's no copyright thing or anything like that. So with that, thank you very much, and you guys have a great next week.